Nancy Drew fans. Today we're looking at The Hidden Staircase, and this one's a fun one. We learned last week that the series was created by a man named Edward Stratemeyer, who came up with outlines for the first 3 stories all at once and sent those off to an author named Mildred Augustine. At this point, she is pretty much a new author. She's a recent graduate from a college in Iowa, and she's a journalist. She was a swimming champion and also the editor of their newspaper. She had been corresponding with Edward Stratemeyer for many years, trying to get a foothold into becoming an author for his syndicates. So I think that one place we really see a lot of Mildred as the woman in the character of Nancy. On page 18, we're in chapter 2, which is called The Mysterious Mishap. Nancy and her father are investigating out in this open field on a riverbank, and all of a sudden this car starts rolling towards them. In the brief second of warning, the truck almost seemed to leap toward the water. Nancy and her father, hemmed in by the concrete piers, had no way to escape being run down. "Dive," Mr. Drew ordered. Without hesitation, he and Nancy made running flat dives into the water, and with arms flailing and legs kicking, swam furiously out of harm's way. This is just one of many times in this book where Nancy is in immediate danger and her father is kidnapped. So much of the story follows in parallel, her trying to figure out what has happened to her father and also to solve the mystery of a house that's being haunted. There's just a ton of action in this story. Almost from the first pages, we've got Nancy and her father constantly in peril, and as Nancy is working to solve these 2 mysteries, she's doing everything from, there's a car chase where she's chasing after one of the criminals, climbing through the attic and getting up onto the roof of this old house. She's going down dark tunnels. Towards the end of the book, she actually makes friends with the sheriff at the police station and is able to interrogate 2 of the criminals. And all of this happens while everyone around her is pretty much terrified. The older women are fainting, and her friend Helen, who she's sort of working in a partnership with, at one point Helen is described as trembling in fright while Nancy is going into this dark corridor by herself. One of my favorite things in this book is how prepared Nancy comes across. At critical times has a flashlight when she needs to go into some dark space. First, when she finds it has a flashlight in her nightstand. Next, she has one in her glove compartment. Her and Helen are both carrying them in their skirt pockets at one point. Towards the end of the book, she uses one flashlight to find another one that's been dropped into the dark. So again, we have a lot of good stuff happening with food in this book. A couple of meals that Hannah whips up for them. Here are 2 of my favorites. So the first meal is steak and french fried potatoes, fresh peas, floating island, and then another night they have sherbet glasses filled with orange and grapefruit, spring lamb, rice and mushrooms, fresh peas, and chocolate angel cake with vanilla ice cream. Nancy again comes across as a very strong character in this book. She really shows no fear in a lot of situations where even the grown men and the police officers seem timid. So I love that about her here. It's really interesting to see her compared to one of her peers, her friend Helen, who really has what we'll call like the typical, at least for the time, female reaction as they're going through all of these harrowing experiences. That's it for this week. Next week, The Bungalow Mystery.